welcome. Thank you for joining us. Really happy that you're here today. And, we're excited to be telling you about health sciences at the Castle. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Aidan. I'm the recruitment coordinator for the Bader International Study Center, otherwise known as the BISC, but also known, especially by our students, as the Castle. So you'll probably hear me referring to it as all three. So if you get confused or if I'm using different names, that is why. Now, throughout the presentation, we'll be keeping an eye on the chat as well as the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in there. We've also set aside some time for a Q&A at the end of the presentation, where I'll actually be reading out some questions, and Professor Beth Richan, who heads the health sciences at the Castle here, will be answering questions. And perhaps before we continue, Beth, I'll throw it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thanks very much, Aidan, and welcome everybody. I'm really super excited that you're able to join us today, depending on what time zone you're in. It's nighttime here in the UK. It's 8 o'clock at night, but it'd be afternoon for most of you. So thank you for joining us. I'm sorry, my voice is a little bit croaky today, so my apologies for that, but I'll muddle through, and I'm really looking forward to the next hour with you.
Perfect, thank you. So just to kick things off, I want to give, I guess, a quick overview of the event. I'm going to be talking just quickly about the experience of being at the Castle. We're then going to take a dive into some of the courses, a bit about campus, and also the experiential learning opportunities, or ELOs, or perhaps you might know them as our field studies. And then, of course, as I mentioned just a moment ago, we'll end off with a Q&A, and you'll be able to ask us, any questions that you have on your mind. So just to give a quick recap about the Castle, and it's really hard to sum up the Castle, but this is really, I think, the best that I can do. So first off, with our academics, we have small class sizes, and we really emphasize personalized approach to learning. You're going to get to know your professors very well, but also they're going to get to know you. And this will help with understanding what's expected of you in university, but also to get your confidence up in the classroom. And I can guarantee by the time you go to the Kingston campus in second year, no matter how big of a class it is, you'll be ready to be there and be engaged. We also have experiential learning, and really this is, the core of the Castle program. So this is where the theoretical meets the practical. Not only are you getting that, call it book knowledge, but you're also getting the hands-on experience to go with it. And in many cases, stuff that you'll be doing right in your first year could even go on a resume. And this is, of course, the ELOs that I'm talking about. So you'll be learning through discovery. And this is actually the photo here in the middle is we have a group of students putting out a mink raft. Now that's in the sciences, and we'll give you more specific health sciences stuff shortly. Lastly, but certainly not least, is the international experience. And this may go without saying, but it really can't be understated how important this is. International experience will allow you to develop your intercultural competencies, and it's really your ability to interact with other cultures. And it also makes you very adaptable too. You'll be able to address unfamiliar situations. And, I always mention this too in my presentations, but in the Canadian market, we see that 80% of our employers value international experience. And I'm sure it's very similar in the United States as well too. Employers want candidates who've been abroad, who's experienced things outside of the country. So very important there. But with that, I'm going to turn things over to Beth to take us through some of the courses and what you could expect to study and what you're going to be learning in your first year of health sciences. Over to you, Beth.
Great, thanks very much, Aidan. And sort of just to follow up briefly on your comments about international experience, I tend to call that global citizenship. And I think that's one of the key things that is a takeaway for our students here. I do dozens and dozens of references for students, former students, whether it's for grad school, medical school, dentistry, and so on. And as Aidan said, they really are looking for an element of global citizenship or international experience The world is becoming smaller and smaller all the time, but yet it's full of a variety of different cultures, different perspectives, and they really want to ensure that the people that move forward within their programs or within their employment have got that kind of perspective and have a different kind of lens of the world, if you will. So we'll talk a little bit about your first year courses. When you come to the castle, you'll have the exact same courses as you would take on our main campus at Queen's University in Kingston. We make sure that the courses are the same, the standards, the knowledge, the learning, the content, all of that is the same as what you would get on main campus. But the one piece that we can offer that they can't because of their large class sizes is the ELOs, or the experiential learning that Aidan talked about. And we'll talk about that again in a few minutes. But in front of you on the screen, it says first year courses, and those are the 6 core courses that you'd be required to take. So you'd take 3 of them in the fall and 3 of them in the winter term. Different professors, all sorts of different social science kinds of courses, such as the GLIF, social and physical determinants of health, right through to anatomy of the human body and physiology and pharmacology and so on. So those are what we call your core courses, and everyone in the Bachelor of Health Sciences program takes those courses, whether you're here at the castle or whether you're on main campus in Kingston, or you can do this degree fully online as well, but everybody takes these courses and has the same content. And I meet probably about once a week with my colleagues at Queen's on main campus to make sure that all of our assessments and all of our content and everything is aligned. So we work really hard on that to make sure that everyone, both on main campus and here, are getting the same experience and the same content.
I actually have a question that came through the chat, and it's just a good question in general. It's not exactly about health sciences, but again, folks, if you have questions, throw them in the chat, throw them in the Q&A. We are here to answer them. So the question is, if your grades improve in second semester and you've received an automatic admission award and you now are qualify for a higher automatic admission award, will it be awarded to you? And the answer is yes, it will. So if your grades improve and you now qualify for the next level of that automatic admission award, you will receive it. Oddly enough, or I should say maybe conversely, if your grades decrease and your average is actually below an automatic admission award level that you were previously promised, you will still receive that automatic admission award. So that's to say it'll always work out in your favor. So if we've offered you an award based on grades in the first semester, that award will still be given to you. Well, with that note, I want to bring things over to optional courses. So Beth, it'll be a bit more for you to explain here.
Okay.
But as you see, just looking at the slide here, you have quite a few interesting options right in first year.
Right, thanks, Aidan. So how the optional courses work. So a minute ago, I explained that you take 6 core courses, 3 in the fall term and 3 in the winter term. And actually some of our faculty from main campus come over to England and teach some of those courses for us. And then we also have some professors from the UK that teach them. So you have a really nice mix of instructors. The optional courses are another bank of courses, and you would be expected to take 6 units of optional courses. And you can see beside the course codes, there's biology 102/3.0. So that would mean that you'd take that in the fall term. So it's a half-year course. If you go down to chemistry 112 and it says 6.0, that means that it's a full year course. So you can take either biology 102, 103, together they would make up an optional course, or any one of the others. And it is absolutely up to you. Out of that selection of courses, what you take. Maybe you're really, really super interested in biology, and that was something that really captured your imagination in high school, and you want to delve a little bit more into that. That's great. A lot of students will take chemistry because they think that that would give them a leg up going through the rest of their degree, and maybe sometimes a general chemistry course is a prereq to something like organic chemistry. But it's absolutely up to you, and we have got academic advisors and myself who will be available to talk to you on a personal level about what might be a good fit for you for one of your optional courses. So now we're building our first year. So we've got 6 core courses that we take, and we've got 1 or 2 optional courses depending on whether they're a full year or a half-year course. So that kind of rounds out most of your first year. But then we move on, Aidan, to electives. So finally, you get to take 1 elective course if it's a full year course, or 2 elective courses if they're half-year courses. And those courses can be absolutely anything that you're interested in. We have a lot of our Bachelor of Health Sciences students that really, really love science, and they want to take a chemistry as their optional course, and then maybe physics as their elective course. But other students say, I've got lots of science in my background, but I've always wanted to take an art history class, and that sounds really interesting. So I'm going to take an art history class. Or they might want to take a politics course, or they might want to take a British studies course or a film course. So within this elective course range, it is absolutely up to you to choose which course you take. And I'm not quite sure, Aidan, when that information gets shared with students, but you will get a bank of courses that you can look at to see which one fits your interests and fits what you want to do down the road in your eventual career. So those are really exciting. And all of the courses, of course, come with ELOs, and we're going to talk about that, I think, Aidan, coming up as well. So that is what your program will look like. 6 core courses, 1 or 2 optional courses, depending if it's a full year course or 2 half-year courses, and then 1 elective course. Although that could be 2 if each one is a half course. And I know that gets a little confusing. It all makes sense once you kind of wrap your head around half courses and full courses and that sort of thing. But there's lots of people that will help you to sort that out.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. No, that's, I think that's a good way of putting it. It does look maybe more complicated than it actually is. Something I just want to note too. So for the 6 core courses, those are all half-year courses. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we'll talk a bit more about ELOs in a moment. But I do want to first mention another course that you may be interested in, and that's the BISC 100, BISC 101 course. It's actually 2 courses. But they're often grouped together. This is a multidisciplinary course. And the reason I always like to mention it is it's really designed to equip you with the skills that will be useful in the upper year university courses. It's very much focused on research as well too. So if that's something that you're looking to do, I very much recommend it to you. And like I said, it covers a variety of different topics. We really do. I would say it has a certain British flair to it because we really do take advantage of where we're located. Now, I'm going to move on in just a second to talk a little bit about the estate. And I see we have actually a good few questions. So in just a moment, we'll maybe answer a few of those. But I want to also draw your attention to the photo that's here. This is actually the History of Science Museum. So one of the ELOs that you might do is go there to see their medical collection. And from what I understand, they have quite an interesting historical medical collection there. So just a little preview of some of the ELOs that we'll talk about. But with that, okay, we've got quite a few questions here. So, all right. So actually, the first one, and I'll pass this to you, Beth, is how hard or different are the core courses from courses in high school? And perhaps just to add to that question is what would be some of the differences that folks would find between a high school course and a course here at the BISC?
Well, to be fair, I'm not an expert in high school courses, but I would like to say that the way that this Bachelor of Health Sciences program has been designed, it has been designed so that students can succeed. And that's something else that we take pride in here at the BISC, with small class sizes, getting to know your professors. Our aim is for students to be successful. And the whole program has been designed so that you can transition from high school into university in a comfortable and supportive way. So I can't really speak how hard they are compared to high school, but I do know that the courses are all designed so that you can be successful as long as you do the work, as long as you come to class, and as long as you're engaged and participate in all of those things. But all of our professors have office hours every week as well. Depends on the professor, but they're anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a week, and sometimes they're drop-in. Sometimes you make an appointment and you just come in and chat. I had my office hours today, and I think I had 5 different students come in, and they're not only talking about their courses, but they're talking about other choices that they're making. So one of our young men came in today and said, he's really thinking about medical school, and he can fast track into medical school, but he doesn't want to miss, a couple of years at Queen's and so on. So we just had a chat about that as well. And so having that level of comfort with your professors is really important, so that if you do find that you're missing a concept somewhere along the way, that you feel really, really supported and comfortable going and knocking on the door and saying, I kind of got lost last week. Could we go over that? And the other thing, I guess, about high schools across the country, across North America, different high schools have different standards as well. In Canada, of course, the public education, if you will, is governed provincially. And so there's different standards and so on. And then within different provinces, they have different strengths as well at different high schools. So what might be really difficult high school that you're at might not be so much at another high school and so on. And that's all factored in with the decisions on acceptances and so on. So I'm not sure I really answered your question, but I hope I gave you a bit of a flavor about the support that you get to ensure success when you get here.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I think that's a really good point. And I can say it wasn't too long ago, I guess, that I was in high school, but something that came up frequently when I was in school was I'd have teachers who would, try and scare everybody in the class. And, you handed in this late. Professors in university aren't supportive. They don't care. You just have to get it done. You can't talk to them. None of that's true. So professors, and this is just not the castle, this is Queen's as a whole. You'll find that your professors are very supportive. You'll find that they're approachable. They're people as well. So, if you have questions about, and I think that's a great point that you brought up, Beth, about going on to medical school or maybe getting involved in research. Talk to your professors. Don't buy into any, if you have any high school teachers who are trying to scare you, they're doing that for their own reasons. It's not the way university is. So something I just want to add.
It might have been back in the day, many, many years ago, it might have been, but I think that has gone by the wayside a little bit.
I hope so. Yes, perhaps I'm aging myself here. That might be part of it. So yes, hopefully you have high school teachers that aren't trying to scare you. With that, I see there's a couple questions about courses here, and I just want to reiterate a couple things. So firstly, you'll only ever be enrolled in 5 courses each semester. So you'll have 5 courses at a time, no more. Just to be clear there. And I'm just going to answer, I sort of try and combine some of the questions here. So I have a question, is there a maximum amount of optional courses we can take? And just to go back to the optional courses here, you need to take one of these courses, or 2, if in the case of, I guess if you did like a Bio 102 and Bio 103, if you see that little 3.0, that means it's a half-year course, and a full-year course is 6.0. I'm not sure why we don't just do half and one, but that's the way it is there. So hopefully that clarified. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say too, out of these optional courses, as we mentioned, you do need to take one, unless it's biology, then you take two. But if you can't decide between, say, chemistry and physics, you can take one of them as your optional course, and you can take the other one as your elective. So just because you take one of these as your optional selection doesn't mean that you can't select one of them as your elective as well. So something that a lot of students will do is they might take chemistry for their optional, but then they will take one of the biology courses for a half-year elective, and then pick up another half-year course, art history, or a health studies course. A very popular course is personal health and wellness. That's a half course in the winter term. And so you can kind of mix and match a little bit if they're half-year courses as well. So just because you take one of these as your optional course doesn't mean that you cannot take it as an elective course as well. It's kind of fun, actually. It's a bit of a puzzle, and you get to build your own degree. You've got certain parameters, but then you kind of get to play with a few things as well.
Yeah, it's something else I just want to add too. I mean, it is kind of fun getting to choose your own courses. There's no doubt about that. That was maybe something that I really liked in university. I actually put all my courses in 2 days one year, and I don't recommend you do that. So you do have some control over your schedule, which is nice. So sorry, 1 second. There was a question here just about spots, availability of spots. We are going to make sure that you can enroll in the courses that you need to enroll in. Just to be clear about that. You'll find though that the classes as a whole at the Castle are, they're reasonably sized. They're probably going to be smaller than your high school, more likely.
Yeah, our maximum is 30 students per class. And if we've got more than 30 students, for example, in one of my courses in the fall term, I had 62 students. So that was just split into 2 sections. So you never have more than 30. That one just happened to be 31, but that's really rare. So if you end up in an elective course that's got, the psych course is usually very large, and they would have several sections. But one of the talking about timetabling, that's something else that we do a little bit unique here. It's all done manually. Whereas I think at Queen's and the big universities now, you may come across a course that you want to take, but it conflicts with another course that you want to take, and so you have to pick one. Well, Jenny Winter in our office puts herself in one of the cloisters or turrets for about a week once all the students have selected their optionals and electives and so on. And then she manually goes through to make sure that every student gets placed in the courses they want so that there's no conflicts. And, it's I think she kind of enjoys it, but it is tricky. But every year she's been able to do it so that every student has been able to take the courses that they want without any conflicts.
No, which is really great. I mean, I actually didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I see we have a lot of questions rolling in. What we're going to do is I'm going to move ahead. I want to quickly talk about the estate and then the ELOs, and we will get to your questions. I promise. We haven't forgotten them. But next, I do want to talk about the Hersman-Sioux estate. So for those of you that aren't familiar, the castle is Hersman-Sioux Castle, and it's also in the town of Hersman-Sioux. But the estate is really interesting. So you'll find that in your courses, we really do take advantage of where we are. And we're just north of Eastbourne, north too of where the Battle of Hastings took place. So if you're at all interested in history, that's not too far away from you. And you'll find in a lot of your courses, we really use the estate. So we have 600 acres. It includes so much. There's wetlands, including waterfalls. There's woodland, grassland, many gardens, 9 themed gardens. There's the plantation woods. There's the orchards, the nuttery. There's the park. There's a moat with 3 ponds. So certainly if you decide to take, like a biology course, you'll actually find that you'll be spending a fair bit of time, not just in the walls of the castle learning or on ELOs, but out on the estate and doing work there. And that goes for a lot of the sciences, but for the arts as well too. On the campus, you're also going to be seeing a lot of animals, both wild and domesticated. So you'll see peacocks roaming around. You'll see our sheep. One of them is named Brian. So I'm actually not sure which one is Brian. So if you can get a picture of a Brian and send it to me when you're there, that would be great. But you're also going to see deer, and you're going to see some a species of spider and a species, oh, there's another one. It's, I believe, a snail that is, it's not commonly found in the UK, a very rare species, but there's so much there. Also on site is what used to be the Greenwich Observatory, their second location. So if you're familiar with Greenwich Mean Time, in the, I believe just after the Second World War, they moved out of London. It was getting too smoggy, and they actually set up on our campus. And should also note too, there's so many walking trails and just beautiful areas to go hiking around the area. So we really are located in quite a neat spot. But with that, I do want to.
Sorry,
oh,
and do you want to back up for 1 second?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if you're going to talk about the residences, but this picture on the bottom left, as I'm looking at it, are the residences just above the H in Hurstmonceau, the word Hurstmonceau, and I'm actually sitting not in one of those buildings right now, but that's where the residence is. So you get this nice 4-minute walk from the castle, which is in the center, to the residence building. So I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I jumped the gun a little bit there, Aidan, but that picture just kind of shows nicely where the residence is situated.
Well, it's a pretty good picture of campus. I usually have one of the other angle where you can see the English Channel, but you're right. You get a nice picture of residence there. It says, as Beth said, it's a nice short walk to the castle. Okay, with that, I do want to talk about experiential learning. And as I mentioned before, this is really the core of the BISC program. And this is these ELOs that we provide, or experiential learning opportunities, are going to encourage you to learn through discovery and practical experience. Often you're going to be outside of the classroom, and you're going to participate in about 20 ELOs during your time at the BISC. So specifically for health sciences, I want to share a few ELOs with you. The first is actually this historic operating theater. And Beth, please feel free to jump in at any point, but this is a place that you may actually be able to get to visit and see how surgeries were done back in the day, and also understand where we came from, and how we view health now and what sort of improvements we've made. And I have to say, anytime I see this picture, it really bothers me that the operating theater is made of wood. I don't know why that is, but it doesn't seem like you could ever really sanitize that properly.
And that's in London. The operating theater's in London.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's not next door. You're headed a bit of a ways to see this one. Another one I want to talk about is the town of Lewis. Now, if you've attended any other presentations, especially if Jimmy or Megan, are two of our BISC ambassadors, were there, they sort of have an ongoing debate whether Lewis or Rye is the better British town to visit. Just visit both. They're both quite nice. But for here, you would actually be going to do an ELO for the social determinants of health course. And perhaps, Beth, I'll let you explain what you might do in this ELO.
Okay, so this is actually an ELO that I do with my Glyph 171 class. And it's a research-based assignment that we do. And then we use a research technique called photo voice. And it's near the end of term when you've got a really good understanding of what the social determinants of health are. So that might be any factor that influences our health. It might be our socioeconomic status. It might be our gender. It might be our education. And all of those sorts of things we talk about and look at throughout the course. And then we go to Lewis, and we do a lot of discussion before we go. And then once we get off the coach or the bus, the students are led out kind of on their own. I'm not one to sort of be a tour guide when I do my ELOs, because you're all adults coming in. It's a very central, small city center, but then you work in pairs. And I say, okay, now go out and observe. Use your own observation skills to identify what social determinants of health you see in this market town of Lewis. And your data is photographs that you've taken of the different social determinants of health. And then you come back, you put them together into a small presentation, and then you share your findings, your research findings, with the rest of the class. And it's always a really super popular one because the students can really look at what they've learned and how they can apply that and use their observation and transfer that knowledge into analyzing data and putting that into sort of a very small kind of a research presentation. And that, is another thing, I guess, and Aidan mentioned that a little bit earlier in terms of research. Most of our undergraduate courses have got an element of research. And I think you'll have seen through COVID that other than just sort of the pure medical information that we were getting, we were hearing about policy and we were hearing about research. And these are really, really important factors as well when we're looking at long-term health outcomes for individuals, regional and global populations. And so that's the town of Lewis. I could talk about it forever, but I'll leave it for now. But it's a really fun one to do with your cameras and what you've learned in class.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And so lastly, I do want to talk about the cadaver lab. So that's another place that you might visit. And of course, this is very important in the world of health. I do want to note that this is not the cadaver lab here that you'd see. This was one of the few nice pictures of a cadaver lab I could find where there weren't corpses. And I do not want to be known as the recruiter that showed pictures of a corpse during a presentation. So this is more of a placeholder here. But again, a really interesting spot to visit. Beth, did you have any ELOs that you wish to share?
About the cadaver? Actually, we have a partnership with the University of Sussex, which is about 40 minutes from here in Brighton. And our partnership is with the Department of Anatomy there. Unfortunately, this year we weren't able to go there because of COVID, because the lab was closed for so long. But we do have a partnership and we're hoping that we can go back to their cadaver lab next year. But what we did instead, when we were on one of our midterm trips this year, we were in Edinburgh and we went to one of the anatomy labs there. We didn't see cadavers, but we had some of their research scholars talk to us about bone anatomy, and they took us on a tour of their anatomy lab when we were at the University of Edinburgh. So, we've all learned a little bit with COVID that we have to be flexible, and so we couldn't go to the lab in Sussex, so we found another lab to go to. That one happened to be in Edinburgh.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, I think that goes well to one of the questions that I had coming through the chat here. And I'm going to answer this one. Are there any outstanding pandemic restrictions that students face when traveling to the castle? As Beth explained with the anatomy lab, we have been able to deliver our ELOs, and we are able to provide the full DISC experience. And certainly we've gotten very good at that during COVID time, so it'll be the same for next year. But on that note too, we do also understand that there, is a risk posed by the coronavirus. So we are taking measures to ensure that everyone at the castle is safe, they're not getting sick, and that we're keeping our students in good health.
And actually this year, she won't be next year, but she'll still be with us on campus. Our director of student services used to be the director of the School of Nursing at Queen's. And so she had everybody under control, making sure they had the proper tests and so on, coming and going in and out of the UK. And right now, there's no restrictions at all. I believe you still have to be vaccinated, but there's no testing that's required to get into the UK at the moment. We hope it keeps that way.
I think that's an important note that all of these things can change. But, with the past 2 years, we've become very adaptable and we'll make sure that, you do have the full experience at the DISC. Now, I see we have quite a few other questions here. So I'll throw some of these to you, Beth. First one here is, how easy is the transition to Kingston campus? And I could talk a little bit about that too, but particularly moving in health sciences into the second year courses. And this student says that the courses appear different in second year. I'm not, perhaps the person who wrote that one, if maybe clarify too, because these are the same courses we provide in first year as you would get at the Kingston campus, or if you did health sciences online.
This year, we flipped some of the courses, so their fall courses were our winter courses and so on, but they were the same courses. And the transition is actually really smooth going to second year. And coincidentally, this coming Monday, we're hosting a meeting with Main Campus and our students here, where the folks at Main Campus are going to be talking to the students and answering any of their questions about entering second year. But it's just absolutely just, it's just like you're leaving your first year behind and starting second year, you're just in a different location. But you have access to all the same resources and you move right into all the courses that you would normally take into second year.
Perfect, thank you. And actually I have a very easy one here for you. How many students are currently enrolled in health sciences at the Castle?
This year there's 45. We were planning to take fewer, but I have a really difficult time saying no to students. And if students are qualified and they meet all the prereqs and all of that kind of stuff, which Aiden might know a little bit more about too, and we just said, yeah, we will take 45 because these students all deserve a spot to be here at the Castle. And so this year we had 45. I'm not sure if we'll have that many next year. It might be closer to 30 or 35.
Okay, I have another really good one here. And actually, I realized too that there was a previous question about the transition to the Kingston campus that I just wanted to add to. And in general, I think a lot of folks worry about transitioning, from the UK to the Kingston campus, and understandably so. So outside of the academic realm, we do have supports in place to help you easily transition. The first is if you apply to housing through Queen's, BISC students are given priority. You will also meet the BISC mentors. These are folks who've done a year at the Castle, they've done a year in Kingston. They know the experience, they've been through it, and they really can help you out with the toughest part of going to the Kingston campus, which I'm not just making this up. My BISC ambassadors have told me that the most difficult thing is just figuring out where everything is on campus. Once you do that, it's pretty good. But in general, our students seem to find housing no problem. Especially because they know, 174 other students who are in the exact same situation as them, and they've spent a year with them. So you're going to know your friends very well.
Actually, I think, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think all of our students have found housing. I check in with them before class. I'll chit chat with them, and they're all very excited. But I think by February, most of them already had housing in place, places that they're quite happy with. Have their housemates or people that they've met here, and they're really excited about going on to Main Campus into second year.
Okay, I have another really good one here, and I'm really happy that someone asked this question. So maybe we could, there might be one we can also both talk about, but how is diversity at the BISC?
We have a wide range of students from across Canada, from different cultural and ethnic backgrounds, and everyone fits in, everyone's supportive of each other, and to my knowledge, there hasn't been any issues with that, and everybody learns to laugh together, and when the assignments are due tomorrow and it's 1 a.m, they cry together and they hug each other and they eat together and that sort of thing. So we do have a wide range of students that come here, and it really makes for a fantastic makeup of perspectives that all of the different groups, different students bring to the different classes.
Yeah, just to add on to that, and I think that's a really good point, is exciting about the castle is there's a really strong sense of community there. It's a very welcoming community, but very tight knit as well too. And you'll find that, regardless of what your background is, where you come from, really anything about you, you have a place at the castle for sure. And we have students that come from all around the world, from many different walks of life, so to speak. Now that said, as a whole, equity and treating people properly is something that we're always working on. So we're always looking at how, even right to like looking at admissions, looking at how things are delivered, accessibility on campus, so many things that I really can't list everything that equity covers, but we are always looking at what we're doing and how to improve it. I don't think we'll ever hit a point where we can say, oh yeah, we're as equitable as you could get, and that's that. Not at all, but as a whole, equity is very, very much important. And if you're interested in exploring that, there's options for students to get involved in what we're doing in regards to equity at the campus. So it's something that's really important to us. Just really want to emphasize that as well too.
Aidan, can I just back up for 1 second? I thought of something else about transitioning to second year, but something else that will be new next year for the very first time is we're going to have upper year health sciences students in the fall at the castle. So these are going to be third year students, and you will be paired with one of those third year students, and they will act as a mentor for you throughout the fall term. They're only here for one term, where you'd be here for both terms, but you'll be paired with an upper year student, and you'll be able to ask them all sorts of questions about main campus and courses as well.
Okay, so some of these questions that are coming through, just to let you know, I am going to message you privately, especially if they're specific to one person. But there's still a lot of good ones coming through, so please keep sending them. But I have one here, and I think this is a really interesting one, actually. So I want to talk about that, and it kind of goes into what you were just saying, Beth, about upper year students. So will there be chances to learn internationally in later years during your undergraduate program? And then the short answer is yeah, absolutely. If you'd like to come to the castle again, there's upper year programs for health sciences. So we would obviously love to see you, and you do some really interesting things for the upper year programs. There's also and correct me if I'm if I got the right title here. I believe it's Global Health and Disability over the summer as well too, which is a really neat program. But actually, yeah, some of our students do, they get a taste of the international experience in first year, and they want more, whether it's at the BISC or through the International Programs Office. Currently, one of our BISC student ambassadors who is there at the castle at first year, he's in his third year now, he's actually studying over in Sweden. I can't even remember what town he's in. It's not Stockholm though. It's a much smaller one. But he couldn't get rid of that international bug, so he decided to head there too. And it's certainly possible. There's plenty of international opportunities. Okay. So, okay, this is an interesting one. Since this is a relatively new and revolutionary program, how does this program differ from the life sciences program or any other medical science program? And I think in the Queen's context, this could be maybe best compared to life sciences and biochemistry.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you, so I think the biggest difference is that the Bachelor of Health Sciences programs, our courses, are what we call taught in the flipped classroom style. So what do we mean by flipped classroom? Well, we don't have professors standing at the front of the classroom day in and day out lecturing at you or to you, and you sit there and you take notes, and then on a test, you regurgitate what the professor said. Every single one of the courses is set up so that you're given the materials and the readings ahead of time. And then when you come to your seminars and come to your classes with your professor, you talk about what you have independently learned already. You might not understand something that was given to you in the readings or the modules, and so that would be a time to talk with your professors about the material that maybe you're having a little bit of trouble with. So you're given that opportunity to be an independent and critical thinker. And that's another thing that we do at the BIS that we really pride ourselves in that, you know, and it goes hand in hand with the experiential learning, but we want students to be explorers, to be problem solvers, so that when you get out into the workforce, whatever that is, you can take on a leadership role. You can say, aha, I've worked independently, I've worked as a team, I've been a part of this collaboration amongst my peers. And we build in those soft skills into every single course that we do. And so that's quite one of the main differences with the Bachelor of Health Sciences program versus sort of a life sciences program, where you might take some of the same classes, but those would be more of a traditional lecture-based course. And that goes so far as into a lot of our assessments as well. Some of the courses you'll have final exams, but not all of them. You'll have different kinds of assessments. For example, in the history and philosophy course, you don't have a final exam, you don't have a midterm exam. You write 6 blogs. You're given materials, you're given modules where you watch videos and audio clips, and you're given other sorts of images and that sort of thing. And then they pose a question to you, and then you need to sort of go back to that content and that material and piece together how you think you would respond to the question that's given. And in this case, and in that particular class, there's really not right and wrong answers. We want you to see that you're a critical thinker and how you can bring concepts together, how you can weave them together, how you can transfer knowledge. And those are the kinds of skills that I'm finding more and more that when I'm doing my references, that employers and grad schools are looking for in medical schools. Communication skills, can they meet deadlines? You know, are they able to work independently? All of those sorts of things are woven into all of the classes so that you can come out with academic confidence as well as content confidence.
Perfect, thank you. So I've seen we have actually, I was able to answer some of the questions in the chat. And before I end the event, I will also give you my email. So please email me any questions that you have too, and I'll be happy to take the time to answer them. Just for things like, dates or more info on residents. I don't have the info immediately in front of me here, and I can send you a lot more detail if you email me. But with that, I have 2 great questions here. So I'm going to answer one, and then Beth, I'll pass one over to you if that's okay. So the first one is, are there academic advisors that will help in course selection so that I can get all the prerequisites I need for my planned graduate school? So there's really 2 things here. First off, it sounds like you already have an idea of what you wish to do for graduate school. I know that going on to med school is pretty popular, and I believe there's 2 schools, at least in Ontario, that do require a couple of specific courses, which we do offer. I've confirmed that. But a lot of medical schools, it is grades-based. But the short answer is, yes, there are academic advisors. There are so many supports at Queen's. So even going just beyond academic advisors, we have, and at the castle, we have mental health supports. We have doctors and counselors on site, or that I should say, come on site. We have folks that'll help you develop your study habits. Too many supports to list. And even while you're at the castle, you can actually access all the resources available on the Kingston campus too. So there are a lot of supports in that sense. But yes, there are academic advisors that can help you, make sure that you have the correct courses, that you're on track to graduate with the degree that you want. Now, that said, there's 2 other things I'd add to that. And first is, make sure that if you have a graduate program you're interested in, you do some of your own research too. Make sure that you have the info there. The other thing too is to talk to your professors. Tell them what your goals are. You know, they have they've been a lot of them have been doing this for quite a long time, and they have a lot of great info to share. So I do want to add that they are a great resource.
And just sort of to follow that up, Aidan, I've actually been with Queen's for about 30 years now. And most of the time that I was at Queen's, I was at a center for excellence where we worked internationally on health projects in the Balkans after the conflict in the Balkans, in Sri Lanka, in Indonesia, India, Bangladesh. And we've still got a lot of contacts in those places as well. I've had some of my students volunteer, for example, in the summer at our partner in Bangladesh and so on. So as Aidan said, your professors have got a wealth of experience, and we are more than happy to chat about our backgrounds and help steer you and help you navigate where you want to get to.
Perfect. Okay, so there's, you know what, I'm going to pass one question to you, Beth, and then there's one more that I'm going to answer that I think will end off the event there. Like I said, I'll put my email in the chat. Actually, I'll just go to this slide too, just so you can see one of our emails, our website, as well as our Instagram handle there. But how time-consuming are the core courses?
They typically vary. The best way to find out for each course is to go to the Bachelor of Health Sciences website itself, the Queen's website. And if you click on like Anatomy 100, if you scroll down on the left-hand sidebar, it'll tell you what the learning outcomes are. It'll tell you what the competencies are, what textbooks you need to buy. But it'll also tell you the time frame that's expected. And usually the courses themselves are about 1.5 hours to 2 hours per week. That's sort of in classroom time, which is less than our general arts courses. Those are usually about 3 hours. And then we expect you to spend about an hour a day on modules or homework, if you will, so that you're prepared for your seminars and classes. And then, of course, there's the ELOs. And I think one thing that we didn't mention when we were talking about ELOs are that they take place on Fridays and Saturdays usually. Courses are only Mondays to Thursdays. And so ELOs take place on Fridays and Saturdays. And if you don't happen to have an ELO on the Friday and Saturday, you and your friends can head off to Gatwick and find the cheapest flight to Portugal and for the weekend and back for classes on Monday morning. That's a whole other webinar, I think, Aidan, so we won't go there. But you can plan on about 1.5 to 2 hours per course per week, plus about an hour per day. So five hours over the course of a week, 5-6 hours, something like that.
Perfect. So we have two very quick questions, and I'll answer these ones. But high school prerequisites for health sciences, is grade 12 physics necessary? No, but you would need, if you don't have grade 12 physics, you would need either grade 12 chemistry, grade 12 chemistry and grade 12 biology. You need 2 of the 3, at least for the Ontario curriculum. So if you haven't done grade 12 physics, but you have the other 2, that's okay. And along with some other items as well too. Okay, another quick one. Thank you. Are there any more webinars specific to getting your student visa and traveling if you've already been accepted? If you've chosen to accept your offer, there is more information coming about that very soon. So keep an eye on your emails. You'll probably see that early April. All right, the last one that I'll quickly answer and that we'll head off is, if I want to join clubs during my first year, how will that work if I'm in the UK? And I'm really glad you asked this. The Castle has clubs, the Castle has sports, it has everything that you'd expect. Now, one thing that's very different about us is everything's very student driven. So we're at the Kingston campus, you have folks that are here for 4 years of university. We get a new cohort of students every year, so everything is very student driven. And just, this is going to be from my memory, because I actually have a long list of all the clubs available. But there's, okay, the one I always remember is the Biscuits, which is the baking club. There's a World Cuisines club. There's a hiking club. There's there's like 10 or 12 different clubs, and I definitely can't remember those. Operation Smile. There's the Bader Jane Austen Literature Society. So those are just the clubs I can remember. There are many more. Oh, there's a dance club. There's many more. And they change every year because they're always based on student interest. There's funding available for them. So quite a few options there. There's also sports. The dodgeball and volleyball are popular every year. This year, I think we have yoga and personal training as well. There's been things like salsa classes in the past. So yeah, there's many ways to get involved.
And a choir, fantastic choir.
Oh yeah. Well, yes, plenty of music and performance opportunities, which are delivered by two very accomplished musicians, Diana Gilchrist and Shelley Katz, and yeah, choir is one of the great things that they do, but they do so much as well too. So if you have questions about that, shoot me an email. There's so much I can tell you about extracurriculars. With that, though, we're going to end off the webinar here. I know it's late in the UK, so Beth, thank you so much for jumping on and giving us the insight into health sciences tonight.
It's my pleasure.
Perfect. On that note, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm really, really looking forward to welcoming you to the castle next September. Look forward to meeting you all in person.
All right. On that note, have a good night, everyone. Thank you for, or day, depending where you are. Thank you so much for joining. And again, please reach out if you have any questions.